Selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
As easy as pie?
Sure. All you have to do is enter your license plate or VIN.
As easy as a stroll in the park.
Okay, then just answer a few questions and you'll get a real offer in seconds.
As easy as singing.
Why not? Schedule a pickup or drop off and Carvana will pay you that amount right on the spot.
As easy as playing guitar.
Actually, I find that kind of difficult. But selling your car to Carvana is as easy as...
Can be.
Visit Carvana.com or download the app to get an instant offer today.
Lucky Land Casino, asking people, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
Lucky? In line at the deli, I guess?
Aha, in my dentist's office. More than once, actually.
Do I have to say?
Yes, you do.
In the car before my kids' PTA meeting.
Really?
Yes.
Excuse me, what's the weirdest place you've gotten lucky?
I never win and tell.
Well, there you have it. You can get lucky anywhere, playing at LuckyLandSlots.com. Play for free right now. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Educate, empower, enable, impact. Thank you for tuning in to That Will Never Work podcast, where we share inspiring information and personal experiences related to business and the entrepreneurial journey from those who are leaders in their respective field. Now, here is your host, author and business coach, Maurice.
Thank y'all very much for tuning in today. I have with me a Michigan-born, lifelong entrepreneur. He is a number one best-selling author. He just, we're blessed because he just launched his podcast, right? So we're blessed to have a new podcaster along with us today. And he's been over the last 30 years, he has expanded his ventures to create multiple multi-million-dollar companies in both product and service industries. And hopefully some information we can provide for you today will inspire you to become just a little bit better tonight. So I thank y'all for all coming on today, and I introduce to you to none other, Rodric Lenhart. Thank you very much, Rodric. Thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, buddy. This is fun.
No problem. So, out of everything that you're doing, right? Books and speaking and all that, being on stages, things like that, right? But one of the things that in doing my research, you're looking to sending 1 million kids abroad, building businesses and that serves first, ideas. So let's just start just with the basic part of just sending the kids abroad. That's number one, because that, some kids may not even have the opportunity of just going across the city, let alone going abroad, right? So what influenced you to have this idea?
It just really comes from that idea of enough and what that means. I never built any of my businesses or did anything for just the money. And I live a real simple life. I don't need a lot to be happy, And I mean, as well as anybody, it's, what you receive is a function of the value you give to everybody else, right? Mm-hmm. So when you have that abundance, what can you do with it? And I sold my last business last summer. So I'm 15 months in now. And like most entrepreneurs, I retired for about 4.5 days before I had another idea,
Right.
And I was with my partner, Nicole. We had went around the world for the second time, and we were on a beach in Thailand. And I look over at her and I'm like, we got to give it all away. And she's just like drinking a mango smoothie. She has no idea what's been happening in my mind for the last few months. And that's where $1 Million Flip Flops was born. That's where the book was born. And that's where our foundation, Send a Student Leader Abroad, was born. And we ultimately partnered with EF Tours, and I can give you the background on that. But to your point, I was that kid that was never going to go on that trip. And I remember distinctly being in my bedroom. We grew up in a little tiny house in Michigan, and the kitchen was about 12 feet from the bedroom. And I remember listening to my parents scream and argue about sending me. And, EF came to our school, and I knew all the rich kids, we'll call them, and that is not meant to be derogatory in any way.
Right.
But these were kids that were going to go to Europe anyway, and I just knew that wasn't in the cards for me. And I remember taking it to my mom, and I was just like, I'd really like to go. And she knew I needed to go on that trip. And Mom won, like she often did. And 6-8 months later, I went on the trip of a lifetime, and it expanded my worldview. It inspired my love of travel. I've been to 60 countries on 6 continents now.
Mm.
And it really taught me that premise of there is no them, there's only us. And without getting too off tangent, but our history is the history of who we're taught to hate at any given time. We're taught to hate the French, we're taught to hate the English, we're taught to hate the Russians. Look what's happening in the world right now.
Right.
Depending on when you listen to this. And if you ask somebody, I was telling you before the show started, I was live in Austin on stage. It was an event called Books and Business, and I was the MC. And I asked this same question. I said, does anybody know anybody in Russia? Does anybody know anybody? And nobody ever knows anybody in these countries. We just know we're supposed to hate them, right?
Right.
I think when you can expose a kid like I was to that concept and see the disparity of homelessness outside of a 5-star hotel, it teaches you a level of compassion and a level of empathy that you can't get if you never leave your town, and certainly if you never leave the United States. And that's what I want for the younger generation. So our goal is to send 1 million kids abroad in my lifetime. And ultimately how it works, Maurice, is these are kids that the teachers identify as they have hustle, they have grind, they deserve an opportunity like this, and they know that it will help expand their horizons, and they can apply it for a grant through us. And I don't have the shirt in here, but we just got the shirts that say this is my $1,000 t-shirt. I actually wore one on stage in Austin. And if they raise at least, the trips cost about $4,000.
Okay.
And if they raise at least $1,000, they get one of the t-shirts. But we work with them every week. It's not just grandma and grandpa had some money and we write a check. It's about how do we work together to help you earn this money so that they have the buy-in. Ultimately, though, if they raise $5, we pay for the rest of the trip. They just need to show that effort.
Right.
And hopefully they go have this experience. We're going to start sending our first kids in May. Some of the folks from EF were in the audience in Austin, which was awesome that they got to come out. And man, I could go down rabbit holes forever about EF and how great they've been. But and there's some entrepreneurial stories in there too about sales and cold calling and outreach. But hopefully those kids, they take that experience back to a community that's also not having that conversation. And then the impact is exponential. That's my goal.
So with that, we talk about building a business that serves first. A lot of times we get caught up in the financial piece because we start a business because we need money in our pocket, and like you said, even just from that perspective of the kids hustling, because they're the lack of. But sometimes we don't understand that we need to serve first. The money will come through that. So how would you explain to someone about serving, how important that really is in building your business?
I mean, you've seen it, and I know I see it in all the entrepreneurs I work with around the globe as a coach. And the people who set out, like when we're doing somebody's why, I say it can't involve money, power, or notoriety. And there's a reason I do that, right? It's because the businesses that are just out to make money, they might do that for the first 6 months or a year, 2 years, but ultimately that owner's not happy, and ultimately the customer figures out exactly what their motive was.
Right.
Where if you just show up to make sure they have 10x value, you'll never go hungry, and you'll never go wrong, And I think we're not taught to think that way. It's not anybody's fault. It's just we're taught more. Oh, you're at 1 million, you need to be at 10 million. You're at 10 million, you need to be at 100 million. You're, and it's why? So people are surprised when, 70-80% of the folks I work with one-on-one, they have absolutely no desire to make their business any bigger. They want to go to their kid's t-ball game. They want to be able to be with their mom before she passes away. They want to not miss holidays, and we get caught up in that grind of, there's I call them the 5 phases of entrepreneur. And the one you're talking about in the beginning is the believer. Right. And some people never leave that stage. They go believer. I call it the believer, the showman, the anxious philosopher, the peaceful warrior, and the business Buddha. Those are my 5 phases. And people get stuck at 3. And then they go back to 1. They chase the next shiny thing, and it starts all over again.
So let's go into that 5 phases real quick, since you touched on it, right? What is that third phase that you're referring to? What is that?
Yeah. And you tell me if you've seen this maybe intimately, or if you've seen it in other people. Okay. So the believer, and this will just be super quick because I can go for an hour on what these 5 are, obviously. But the believer is, I've got this thing. I think people are going to want my thing. I just need to get it in front of as many people as possible. I'll be a billionaire in 6 months. I'll be on the beach. That's the believer. The showman is, people do want my thing. I've got the SUV, I've got the house. I work 25 hours a day, 8 days a week. I could make my own schedule, but if I leave, it all falls apart. Then you get to the anxious philosopher, where lots of people want my thing. I'm building a team. Everyone thinks I'm successful. I have all Western metrics of success, but I wake up every day and say, is this all there is? I don't know why I'm running my business anymore. I don't know if I should get bigger, smaller, go back to corporate, start a new business. What should I do? But I'm alone because I can't tell people about my very first world problems, even though I'm anxious and depressed and worse. That's the anxious philosopher. And then people will typically go back to number one because they think the grass is greener. And what I do solely is work people through number 3 to number 4, which is the peaceful warrior, where you've done the work of identifying who you are, how you want to show up in the world, and then build a business that serves you first so that you can serve others. And then ultimately move into business Buddha, and you can infer what that one is. But do you agree that so many people get stuck in number 3 and they quit, they give up, they self-sabotage? There's a lot of reasons it goes south when you're at that number 3 level.
And I totally agree, because I've been doing this small business consulting piece for 11 years. And so I could see myself trying to reinvent myself, trying to go backwards. I'm questioning who I am, what I am, and what am I doing? Is it really making an impact? So I totally agree, where I have rebooted more than I care to acknowledge, if you will.
Nothing wrong with that.
But some of the things, just for myself, I've learned how to niche down. 1, number 2, understanding that I'm serving more than I'm trying to make the money. Because of who I was helping, or what I was concentrating on as a small business consultant, being nonprofits, religious organizations, things like that, I am helping the greater good, but I also understand that they're not in a position to necessarily give up as much money as you would prefer, or things like that. So sometimes you have to keep that in mind too. What you're trying to do is not going to always bring you the millions of dollars, or what society expects for you to have.
Right. Yeah, and it's redefining what your definition of success is. We talked about that a lot in Austin. I mean, I was in a room with 20 people, and it was Hal Elrod and Mark Murphy and Justin Donald and Bahare Hamidi, and I mean, just Amber Vilauer, people that you would recognize in that space, and all of us were there to give to each other. It was not about, here's what I do, here's why I'm so great. It's I'll tell you one of the coolest things. This is kind of a tangent, but we all put these giant Post-it notes on the wall. Okay. And for 2 days, it was what you need. I need podcast guests. I need donations for the foundation. I need whatever it is, and everyone signed up. Everybody that was in that room signed up for 2 days. It was really this space of service, because all of us are in the industry of helping others go out and serve more people just like you.
Wow, that's very impactful. And sometimes we have to get over our own ego to say that we need help.
All the time. All the time.
So, and to your point of, even just micromanaging our company, trying to, whether you're outsourcing a piece or you're trying to bring in more employees, if you will, just trying to get over the hump. Sometimes you think like, hey, you know what? You're not hitting what my vision really is, or you're not grasping what I'm trying to express to you. So now we take it all back because we feel that we're the only one that can do that. So to your point, to your point of your 5 philosophies, my question to you is, how would you talk to someone to get over that, of being able to delegate or build that relationship with someone else to say, hey, I do need some help?
It really comes back to that authenticity piece. And what I do, my method is called the WAVES method, and it's your why, authenticity, values, exploration, and your statement of purpose. And it's a filter for decisions you make, but it's also a filter for me and who I work with. And I say that I only work with, entrepreneurs that are profitable, but that are making, at least $20,000 a month. And the reason that number is there, that number can be $2,000 a month. It depends on the person, but it's that I can never, and you tell me if you've been able to figure this out, but somebody that thinks that more money is going to solve their problem, I can't help them yet. And I think you have to learn that lesson through life. And sometimes it takes people $1 billion and sometimes it takes them 10 grand, but it's that philosophy of this isn't making me any better. And it's the same concept for people that are afraid to ask for help and their ego's in the way. It's that authenticity piece. You've got to be doing this thing for yourself and nobody else. And then you have to understand that you can't do it alone. I've got a tattoo on my arm that says "No man is an island," right? It's that old John Donne poem, but it's so true. And I don't think that piece is something that you can teach somebody. I think it's just like the money piece. They have to learn it on their own before we can help.
So with that comes a change of mindset, maybe even a change of attitude, a change of scenery, if you will. But some of us don't like change, right? So how would you suggest to someone to embrace it just a little bit better, because a lot of us don't like to get out of our comfort zone?
I think the biggest piece of advice, you and I probably both got at some stage is that you're the average of the 5 people, right? I think it was Jim Rohn or one of those that said that. But, not taking advice from anybody who isn't where you want to be in life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's your business, whatever that is. I think that alone will help change your mindset and help change your scenery. If you look around you, and I've got a whole chapter in the book about how your friends and family are the worst place for advice, and we all know that, right? And it's not because they don't love you. It's because they don't want to be left behind. They're the ones that say that will never work.
Right.
And it's not because you have a bad idea. It's because everyone wants you to do well, but not better than them. And then there's people like that room I was in Austin. Everyone wants everyone to do amazing. The ego's completely gone, and that's its own spiritual journey, right?
Right. It is, most definitely. And that's hard to find those individuals that are cheerleading you on. That's not easy to find. And it's things like how we met each other on Podmatch. You have to get outside of your circle. You have to get outside of your comfort zone, to be able to say, hey, you know what, let me go meet somebody that is doing a little bit better than me, even if it appears to be. A lot of people come on the podcast thinking that, hey, Maurice, you're doing great. You're doing great. Well, you don't know how nervous I am every time I get on, So I think there are some things that we all have to, face, overcoming fear and all those type of things.
I think too that people, it sounds trite maybe, but you got to go with your gut. That there is an energy that people give off and if they're right for you. You might not like the answer, but
And that's sometimes we don't like that feedback. We don't like criticism, And so in that, one of your topics is like confessions of a serial entrepreneur, right? The 25 years of triumph and defeat in the trenches, and a lot of times we don't like to talk about the defeat parts. So everybody wants to see the wins, but not the losses. And I think that's where we gain the most information. That's how we grow faster, So what are some of the things that you would, just little ideas of where you might have experienced defeat that has gotten you to the point where you are today?
Oh, man. How much time do we have left? The biggest one is, and I start the book this way. It's the first line of the book. It's, what if my whole life was wrong? And that comes from the Death of Ivan Ilyich, the Tolstoy book. And he's at the end of his life and he looks up at his wife and he says, he's on his deathbed. And he says, what if my whole life was wrong? And that's never left my mind. I think about it every day. And every business I've started has been to serve me first, my values. And I'll give you just the quickest story I can. But when I was 24, 25 years old, and it's the bad word of the day, it's job. I took a job. And I was literally entrepreneur since I was a kid. I never worked for anybody. I was selling golf balls, selling candy bars, had a fruit stand, had, invented some things that sold worldwide when I was 18 years old. I mean, just,
nice.
I grew up with nothing.
Okay.
So I knew if I needed it, I had to go hustle for it myself and figure it out.
Right.
And I had moved to Charleston, South Carolina right after university, and I bought my first house. I was 21 years old. That led to kind of my real estate and construction careers. But I took a job with a Fortune 100 builder because I saw a gravy train of this agent I met who's still a dear friend. Her name's Lane. And I was like, I want to do that, right? She sits in a model home. She doesn't do anything all day. She's clearly making piles of money. And so I'm like, sign me up. So I slowly shut down. I was running 2 businesses at the time. I slowly shut those down, and I'm, sales trips out to Santa Barbara and the Breakers and riding around in the CEO's Ferrari out in California and just next level everything. And I woke up every day with that sinking, is this all there is feeling? And I was in that place where everyone on the outside tells me how great I'm doing. And I had suicidal thoughts. I was depressed.
Right.
And I found myself on an operating table about to get the discs in my back fused. And I coached baseball for years, played in adult leagues. By all metrics, I'm healthy. Yet I have this debilitating back pain. Why? Extreme emotional distress. And
wow.
I canceled the surgery. I got up off the table and canceled the surgery. Never went back. I said, there's got to be another way. And that's ultimately what built the Waves method and all the things that I used for 20 years to build all of my businesses. And when I sat on the beach that day and told Nicole, we got to give it all away, that was one of the pieces. It was the things I'd help my buddies start businesses, that kind of thing, but I never did it at scale. And that's what I'm doing now. But buddy, I've like I said, I've been real low on that emotional scale and had to dig myself out. And I wasn't afraid to ask for help. I went and got a therapist and got a coach and dove into all the books that I needed to dive into. And certainly as men, that's a place that a lot of people don't want to talk about.
Yeah, we don't. Rodric, man, I thank you for coming on, man. Thank you for dropping these gems, man. I appreciate it. I appreciate it a lot.
Wish we had more time.
I know. Well, so let everyone know where they can find out, information, even, the million flip-flop idea, all these, type of things. Where can people find your information?
Easy, $1,000,000flipflops.com. And we are at $1 Million Flip-Flops on every social channel.
Okay, cool. So, Rodric, again, thank you for coming on. But I got to ask you my question. I ask everybody my would you rather question. Would you rather choose 3 doors or a fork in the road?
Fork in the road.
Why fork in the road?
Because if it's that whole take the path less traveled, right? I'm going to look at the one with all the tracks on it. I'm going to go the other way, and I'm going to know it's the right way.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool. I appreciate it, Rodric. I appreciate it.
All right, buddy.
Thanks a lot for sharing today. Continue to listen to That Will Never Work podcast. Talk to y'all later.
Thanks for listening. Find us on social media at Chisholm Group LLC and check back weekly for new episodes. Until next time, that will never work, or will it?
With the Lucky Land Slots, you can get lucky just about anywhere.
This is your captain speaking. We've got clear runway and the weather's fine, but we're just going to circle up here a while and get lucky. No, nothing like that. It's just these cash prizes add up quick. So I suggest you sit back, keep your tray table upright, and start getting lucky.
Play for free at LuckyLandSlots.com. Are you feeling lucky? No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
Can you have zero interest in something and still really want it? Your wallet would say yes. And with Simply Zero from South Carolina Federal Credit Union, you can transfer credit card balances and get 0% intro APR for 12 months. That's right, no interest all year. So you pay less and keep more. To learn more, visit scfederal.org/simplyzero. That's scfederal.org/simplyzero. Variable APR ranges from 11.74% to 17.99% thereafter. Limited time offer restrictions apply.